And now it is story time with Matthew Honson Knight, and the time he went to the Mariners game. Yahoo! Well, hello everybody. My name is Matthew Honson Knight, and if you just saw that title, that crazy title, I just want to say thank you, for viewing this video. I mean, I don't know how any of you guys probably got this video. I mean, I probably was working at my everyday job, and then all of a sudden I handed this videotape to someone, and all of a sudden, it probably ended up on the internet 30 years from now, and all that jazz. But anyway, I have a really incredible story to tell all of you guys. And if you just saw me dancing, not too long ago, I was just really happy because even though I know the Mariners this year in 1989 have just not been doing very well, and sadly we're just probably not going to make the playoffs and all that stuff. I mean every time going to the Kingdome is just always nice, because it's just always loud, and and the fans are just going nuts and all that stuff, even though I know our team doesn't always do well, like the New York Yankees or the Minnesota Twins or the Cubs or the Athletics or the Angels or maybe the Dodgers and all that stuff. It's still always a great time to always go to the Mariners game and all that stuff. And I will tell you a really great story, and it's also a very crazy and very funny story, and I think you guys will definitely laugh a lot. Anyway, before I tell you the story about my time at the Mariners game yesterday, it's very important that you know a little bit about myself. I went to go to school at the University of Hawaii. And the thing about Hawaii is that it's just a very nice place to go to school. It's always nice and sunny. There's always very beautiful and stunning girls that are there, and and then you can go to the beach whenever you want. Anyways, after my time in Hawaii, I then graduated with the degree and all that stuff, and so I was offered this strange job. I don't know where it was, but I know it was in downtown Seattle, I believe. And so I looked at the job offer in the mail, and so basically I looked at it, and actually I found it was not in Seattle, it was in Bellevue. And I've never been to Bellevue before, just like I have not been to Seattle before. And so anyway, I packed up all my stuff, I put all my stuff in a duffel bag, I didn't have a U-Haul truck or anything, and so I just made the move, and I went on a cruise ship, that went from Hawaii, to Seattle, got off the boat, and and then I started looking for an apartment and all that stuff, and so I found my apartment, and then I went to my job on the second day, and everybody there was so nice. I mean, it was just a very, very, relaxed environment. Not a lot of people wore suits. I mean, it was just jeans and a t-shirt and, and all that stuff. I mean, it was just a very nice place. And then the position that I did, I think I had some writing position or something, where I got paid, Washington State minimum wage. I don't know what the minimum wage is in Washington in 1989, but anyway, I met this one new friend, and and I believe, and well, apparently, I think he's like from, I can't really remember where he was from, but anyways, I think he was from let's see. I think he was from Brooklyn, I believe. And his name, I believe, was I don't know. He had a very interesting name, but his name, I believe, I know it was Lewis something. And he had this other yeah, I think he had this other dog named DeAndre, I believe. Yes, now I remember. It's all coming back to me now. Like, his name was Lewis Parkinson, and I believe he had, and I think he was named Lewis Parkinson the 10th, I believe. Anyway, the thing about Lewis Parkinson is that he was, I think he kind of, is that he had a very interesting background. He was from New York City, and he went to New York University, and then moved to Seattle for my job, and we kind of clicked and all that stuff, and so anyways, he was kind of getting to know, like, like the city of Seattle and all that stuff, and so I got to hang out with him at his apartment in Bellevue and all that stuff, and then we watched some TV shows that were, and all that stuff, and it was just a really nice time. And so, little did I know, he bought 2 tickets to the Mariners game, and so anyways, once he bought like 2 tickets to the Mariners game, he asked me, he was like, Matthew, do you want to come with me? And it'll be fun, it'll be fun to like see one of our sports teams for the first time. And unfortunately, we never really had a baseball team growing up in Hawaii, or a professional one, So basically, for me, it was like, why not, And so, anyways, then we found parking very easily, even though it took us a little bit of time, But anyway, we found parking, and I saw the Kingdome for the first time, and my goodness, it was incredible. It was like very dome-like, and I mean, it like felt like a giant Death Star going in there, even though I know in baseball terms, the New York Yankees are the evil empire and all that stuff. Well, anyways, we went in, and it was just electric, and people were crazy and cheering and all that stuff, and it was just a very nice environment and all that stuff. And we were actually playing against the Toronto Blue Jays as well, and Canadian, people from Toronto, they're crazy. And that will be what I talk about in the next clip. Anyway, little did we know, when we arrived at the Kingdome, we were checking in, to our tickets and all that stuff, and for some apparent reason, we were chosen to be in the Diamond Club. And the thing about the Diamond Club is that some companies, whether you work at something or not, you get chosen to be in the Diamond Club. And so anyway, there was just a lot of cool things about the Diamond Club, like there was like a lot of food, a lot of sweets, there was a lot of meat if you are a big meat eater like myself, and and all that jazz, and so anyways, as me and Lewis were done, eating, like lunch or something, we then went to go find our seats. And it was just so incredible. Like, we saw, I saw the Mariners players for the first time, and all that jazz. And then there was this one, African-American player, that was wearing, and he was this big, tall guy, and he had, like, a mustache and all that stuff. And he was, like, signing autographs with, like, the fans and all that stuff. And he sounded like really cool. I mean, he was, I don't know, he like sounded like some sort of cool, guy like in a 1980s movie or something, But anyways, then he like saw me, and I don't know what I had to sign, maybe just like my own hat or something like that. And then I saw his name Griffey on the back of his jersey, and I said, thank you, Mr. Griffey, for signing, my hat, and he was like, "Oh, it's no problem. Just call me Junior," you know. And so it was just really nice. And then I saw this other player that like sounded Hispanic, I believe, and I think his last name was Martinez, I believe, and so I don't know. I mean, they sounded like pretty cool guys and all that stuff. I mean, even though our team is just not doing well, at least we had, you know, Edgar Martinez and also Griffey as well. I mean, they were pretty cool. And so, anyways, as the game, you know, started, we were just like, me and Lewis were just watching the game and all stuff, and and from that game on, I was just a Mariners fan, and all that stuff, and so anyway, like we were watching the game, and and just watching like the game, and unfortunately we weren't doing too well. We were just sadly not doing too well. I mean, the Blue Jays were kicking our butts and all that stuff. And and all the obnoxious Canadian people were just going like, yeah, 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 Blue Jays, yeah. And so it was kind of obnoxious, and then Lewis would sometimes turn back and be like, "Would you guys shut up?" And they would keep going like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, Blue Jays, hey, hey," and it was just awful, And so what happened was all the Blue Jay fans, were just acting like cocky people and all that stuff, and they were acting like hot crap, and it was just and so what happened, was, I kept, I just kind of kept having, like, my head down, going like, oh, no, my team's not doing well, no, just no, Anyways, then what happened was, it was then, one Blue Jay, fan was going like, "Man, you picked the wrong team to be a bandwagon fan on, Mariners suck, you guys suck." And so anyways, then what happened was then Lewis was like, "What did you just say?" And he was like going, "You suck, eh?" And he's like, and he goes like, "Hey, shut up! You shut up!" And so then what happened was a big fight, broke out, in the Diamond Club. And so then what happened was Lewis, with his New York temper, was just beating him up and going like, "Hey," and it was just so bad. And they had to call security and all that stuff. And so then what happened was then, and so I tried to break up the fight, and then there was more, unfortunately there was just more Blue Jay fans that were just kind of drinking too much Bud Light and Budweiser and all that stuff, and so and so then what happened was then like Lewis, and I said to him like, "Lewis, are you okay, man?" and all that stuff, and then it's like. And then unfortunately we ended up, getting chased by the Toronto Blue Jays fans around the Kingdome and all that stuff. And so then what happened was we had to keep on running and all that stuff, and and so the security guards, and so they just started chasing us, being like, "Hey, you won't get away with this punch. This help bill in Canada's not gonna cover it," And so then we unfortunately kept getting chased by them. We went upstairs to the Kingdome, then downstairs, then the medium parts, and we had to run through a bunch of people, and a lot of people were going like, "Oh my!" and going like, "Oh no!" And he's like, and then it was so funny when, and so then there was like this one older Mariner man that was like in his like 60s going like, "Oh no, this is terrible." "Oh no, this is terrible." And so anyway, then what happened was the security guard, kept on chasing us and all that stuff. And then little did we know, we then snuck into the suites, at the Kingdome and all that stuff. And in the next clip, we actually met this really interesting person and his dad, I think, owned like a VHS company or anything. Anyways, I'll tell you about it in the next clip. So anyway, as Lewis and I were running away from like the crazy Toronto Blue Jay fans, we then snuck into like this one suite where this really, really rich family was watching the game in. And little did we know, there was this teenager, that had this really long brown hair, and he was wearing like, he was like wearing, typical 1980s style fashion and all that stuff. I think he even had like a Sony Walkman cassette player in his pocket or something like that. And then he was going like, are you guys enjoying the game? And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm enjoying the game very much. My friend Lewis and I, we just, the Kingdome is so nice and all that stuff. And then of course, John, he kind of said, no, you guys are running away from crazy Toronto Blue Jays fans, you guys have already gotten yourselves into big trouble, and all that stuff. And so anyways, and I was like, oh, well, I'm sorry, and all that stuff. And then John just kind of shook his head, is like, you boys don't know anything about Seattle, do you? And so then me and Lewis were like, no, and so anyways, we kept on watching the game and all that stuff, and thankfully though, John was just alone while his parents were doing like some sort of like business meeting with like all these other rich people, And so anyways, then what happened was, we got to talk to him and all this stuff, and he's a sports fan, and which was kind of cool, and we even got like his number and all that stuff. And so then what happened was then his parents, busted in, and he's like, who invited these people? Who invited this, this guy? And so then what happened was that, me and Lewis were like, oh boy. And so then what happened was that we had to run out of the suite and all that stuff. And then like the same Blue Jay fans, saw us, and then they were like, there they are, get them! And so then like they kept on chasing us and all that stuff. And so then what happened was we were just going like, ah! And so we were just like screaming and all that stuff, and we were passing a bunch of people, and then little did we know, we passed this one guy that had, kind of a balding spot on his head, and he was working for like ESPN or something like that, and so then what happened was then he was like covering the Mariners game, and then he was saying like, oh, the Mariners are doing, unfortunately are not doing very well. That's pretty that is pretty typical of their management, or some kind of stupid stuff or something. And then all of a sudden we were just running away, going like, ah! And then more Blue Jay fans are chasing us and all that stuff. And so then what happened, was then then he like turned back, and he looked, and then he looked back at the camera, and was like, yeah, that's typical when you come to the Kingdome. And so then what happened was then we kept on running and all that stuff, and and so then we had to like sneak through like another place in the Kingdome, and so then what happened was what happened was then we kind of jumped, Lewis, there was just kind of a dead end or something like that. And then what happened was that Lewis, had to jump. Lewis and I jumped off the high ends of the seats, and so then we were going like, ah! And so what happened next was bad, because then the same ESPN guy that was covering the game, we actually fell on his ESPN camera, and we broke the camera. And then he was going like, oh no. And then all of a sudden all the film was going like, no, oh, punk, And then they were going like, Colin, are you there? Colin, Colin, what's going on in there? And so then what happened was then like Colin, got up, and he was going like, that's just great. All my footage is gone and wrecked up because of you two idiots, And then unfortunately he left, and I was like, oh, hi, I never met another person from Seattle before, and I was going like, hi, I'm Matt, this is Lewis, and so then he was like so enraged, and so he was like so mad, and he was like, and I could see like his eyes getting like so big and certain, and then all of a sudden he was like, "Get out of my face," and so then I was like, "Yes, sir," and so then what happened, was then, we then went back to our seats, and and unfortunately we had no idea what was really going on in the game, and then. Once we sat down, we saw that the Mariners had the lead. They had the lead or something. One of the players hit a home run or base hit or like they ran to home or anyway, whatever. And so me and Lewis were just like happy, going like, "Hey, we're winning! We're winning!" And so then we were watching the game and all that stuff, and so then and then for once we sat by some really, cool Mariner fans, that were just talking baseball and all that stuff, and we got to know them, and I got to find out how baseball actually works, and, I mean, even though I grew up playing baseball and sports, but unfortunately I just didn't know what it was like to have an MLB team and all that stuff, and so, anyways, and so we were talking with them, and I said, "Do you ever think the Mariners are ever going to go to a World Series or anything like that, And he said, "I don't know. I've lived here for quite a bit of years, and I've seen this team so far not, being very average. But hopefully with Edgar Martinez and Ken Griffey Jr., we could actually improve and all that stuff." And so, anyways, we had a really interesting chat with them and all that stuff, and then unfortunately, and then as it got to like the bottom of the eighth or something, we still had the lead, we were just like cheering and all that stuff, and and high fiving a lot of good other Mariners fans, and got to know them, and what did I learn from this? Well, I mean, I learned that, Seattle people are very, very nice and very kind, despite like what, people like to say, and I'm very glad that I chose to move up here. I definitely chose to move up here and all that jazz, and, but then what happened was then the Blue Jay fans that we got into a fight with earlier, they showed up again, and then unfortunately he chased us even more, but then what happened was then, they tripped on something, and they fell down on the baseball field, and then they got, they had to be kicked out and all that stuff, and, and so that was, and so we were able to like win like the baseball game and all that stuff, and me and Lewis, despite all the trouble that we got into at the Kingdome, and whether it was invading I think I found out their names. I found out the family's name was named the Stantons. Even though we invaded the Stanton suite without permission or a ticket, or wrecking up the call-in person's camera from ESPN and all that stuff, and I mean, it was just wild, man. It was just very, very wild. So there you have it, everybody. That was my first Mariners game that I ever went to, with my friend Lewis, in a nutshell, And, we got back home, and we found our car and all that stuff, and and unfortunately, little did we know, when we got to our car unfortunately was vandalized, by some Toronto Blue Jay fans, that were not very happy with us. I don't even know how they found our car and all that stuff, but, they were just really upset at us, because we unfortunately, won in the so-called fight, and all that stuff, and unfortunately their healthcare system in Canada is probably not as good as the United States or anything like that, and so they were like all mad and all that stuff, and so anyway, they unfortunately like vandalized like our, like my car and all that stuff, and so then, Lewis and I had to take a cab back to Bellevue and all that stuff, which was not very good, and I'm probably gonna have to pay a lot of money for that, since, and I don't know how much, car repairs are here in Washington State, but, I don't know, but, all that time, it could get worse, and so, anyway, even though my car got destroyed and all that stuff, I was just very happy that, me and Lewis had a great time and all that stuff. Despite all the trouble that we caused at the Kingdome. And and then also meeting Edgar Martinez and Ken Griffey Jr. was also pretty fun as well. And I don't know if I'll go to any other Mariner games. Hopefully in the next decade, and next year is going to be 1990. Hopefully we go to more games and all that jazz, and that would be really cool, and and I mean that would just be really, really awesome if that can happen. And yeah, but I will admit, some of the things we did was pretty funny, especially that one guy that was going like, "Oh no, this is terrible," and so and so yeah, I mean it was just really, really crazy, and yeah, hopefully in 7 years from now, or maybe 10 years from now, the Mariners could actually do really well, and all that stuff. And I'm very hopeful for the future, despite the fact that a lot of Blue Jay fans and the MLB, says that we're not very relevant, which I could kind of understand, But anyways, so anyway, that's just my story, and of me going to the game with my friend Lewis and all that jazz, and anyway, and I hope you guys have a very, very wonderful day today. And anyways, go Mariners, and I hope you guys have a nice day. Goodbye, everybody. Well, anyways, now that my video has ended, I'm gonna probably go out somewhere and maybe get a bite to eat. And the calling person from ESPN is at my house, and and he's with police, and this can't be good. Oh no, this really can't be good. Oh boy. Oh no. He's got a baseball bat. That can't be good. Oh no, he's wrecking more of my car, Oh no, this is not good. Anyways, this calling person from ESPN, unfortunately I kind of, miscalculated, that I'm actually living in his neighborhood, and he's really mad, and I found out that he's my neighbor. And anyways, I don't know what's gonna happen, but anyways, if you guys see this video, in 30 years from now, my name is Matthew Honson, and I hope things go, anyways, if I'm not alive by this time, I do hope the Mariners do win a World Series, and hopefully do go to the playoffs and all that stuff, just hopefully, even if I'm not alive. But anyway, bye-bye, you guys. No! Hey! No! Hey, I'm sorry! Hey! Hey everybody, thanks for subscribing. And if you haven't already bought this game, and if you're a really hardcore baseball fan and you just really love to play baseball video games and all that stuff, I highly recommend that you definitely buy MLB The Show 17. It's a really great baseball game. The franchise mode on it is just really wonderful. And actually, so far in the game, I've actually led the Mariners to 5 World Series titles, and I think so far playing it, I think right now I'm in 2072 and all that stuff. I mean, what you do on franchise mode, you get to create like your own, or you get to edit like your own players and make them good and all that stuff, and you also get to do like other features as well that I probably haven't done on it yet. But if you haven't bought it yet, and if you you have a PS4 and all that stuff, and you want a good baseball game to play, this game is your game, you know. And it's really wonderful. It's really great, and I highly recommend you go buy it. And anyway, thanks for subscribing, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And go Mariners!
DJ